Hi everyone, and welcome to another out and about video. Now today's is going to be something a little bit shorter, a lot shorter. We've come across several, or many I should say, little stories that have appeared in the local papers back in the 1800s, early 1900s, but there's hardly any information that covers the stories, just brief snippets. So we're going to come out to places like where I am now on the old East Lancashire Railway, and we're going to talk briefly about what transpired in the stories. Try not to give anything away on this today's story, but like I said, bear in mind they're only going to be quick videos, these ones, and we're getting to the reason why during the video. But if you do like these short stories, let me know down below. Are they too quick, or do you want a lot more detail? The reason why I'm asking is because, like I said, with them being short stories, the papers only seem to touch upon the brief outline of what occurred. And even though we do like to delve into stories a lot more and get as much information as we can, sometimes it's just not possible. But rather than us not talk about these individuals who obviously make these stories up, if you will, and the tragedies that befell them, rather than ignoring them just simply because there's not much information out there, we thought we'd cover them anyway regardless, because these people who we're going to talk about in upcoming videos, they were innocent people who either lost their lives, they were involved in tragedies, murders, whatever. We still think that they should be remembered, they should have a voice that's still remembered. So we're going to cover a hell of a lot more stories. So not all future videos will be 15, 20, 30 minutes long. Some might be 5, 6, 7 minutes long. Tell me what you think about that down below. Are you interested in watching videos at that short length? So as we walk along what used to be the East Lancashire Railway, and as you can see, it's more of a public pathway now. People walk their dogs along this stretch quite regularly. But back in 1800s, 1896, this was a busy railway line, and it's here, like I said, that the tale, or the tragedy of William Taylor took place, and it was just further past these gates that are coming up. Now this, where we are now and what we just passed over, was known as Cam's Bridge, and it just goes directly right underneath us to the other side, and you can't really see them through the trees, but just over there are what were known as Tenter's Fields. We've mentioned this story on a previous video when we did this walk along the railway line, but just below us is, or was, it was known as Cam's Bridge, and there's some steps that take down to it. But just across here, we're going to come to the aqueduct of the Hire Mill. Well, it used to be a textile factory back in the day, but was like now it's more of a museum. But yeah, Helmshore Mill, or Middle Mill, and Hire Mill, as they're all called, it has its viaduct, and it was just here where we're crossing now, where the body of William was discovered in the early hours. And like I said, it's 1896, and it was literally just in this area around here. Now the inquest took place a week later, the following Wednesday, and it took place at the Station Hotel in Helmshore. Now William, at the time, he was 37 years old, and he was, I think from all accounts, he was a cardroom hand working in the mills. But yeah, around 3:15 in the early hours of the morning, his body would be found lying on the line. Now, it's a bit graphic, but one of his legs was severed at the knee and the other at the ankle, and his head and left hand were badly mutilated. Now, he'd obviously been hit by some kind of steam engine. Now, nobody quite knows why it was down here at that time, or, well, obviously not at that time, but during the late hours of the night. And it's quite a mystery as to why his body was lying here and why he'd been, or how he'd been hit by one of the engines, if you will. His body was found just off the aqueduct past Cams Bridge. Now, we've just walked over Cams Bridge, and to our left is the actual aqueduct, so we can pinpoint roughly where William's body was found, and it was in this area. So I'll just show you guys the actual aqueduct. Don't know if the GoPro's picking up quite well, but down below, just in the distance, as you can see, this is the aqueduct that feeds into Helmshore Mills, which is just in that direction. And just to prove it once more, just watch the nettles, but just over that way you'll see the lodges for the mills, which is being fed, like I said, from the aqueduct in that direction. So we know this area here is where poor William's body was discovered around 3:30 in the morning. Now, one of his legs was amputated at the knee, and on the other leg it was amputated at the ankle. His head was badly mutilated, and from all accounts, where the railway line run in this direction, parts of his body was on this side and on this side. So it's quite horrific what they found, or what the witnesses found. Now, this stretch of railway line is synonymous for tragic events, and it's not the first tale of its kind. And further back in that direction, there's also another tale. I think it was a chap called Samuel Rowbottom or Ramsbottom, who was killed just shortly after the infamous Helmshore rail collision in 1860, just a couple of weeks later actually. And he was the same, badly mutilated because of the engines going over his body. So, like I said, it's not unique in any ways, this tale. But William, now, apparently he was a gentle, sober kind of chap, never did anybody any harm, kept himself to himself. But the strange thing was, at 3:30, I think it was on the Wednesday afternoon, he left his aunt's farm. Well, he shared it with his aunt and his uncle at Lumhall Farm, saying he was going to go and see the new year in. But he was seen later on at around 5:30 by another guy, I think it was called James Ramsbottom. Now, he didn't know William, did James, but he obviously, when he went to identify the body, he was one that was called up to identify the body. It was the person that he saw walking along this stretch, like I said, around 5 o'clock, 5:30 on the Wednesday. The weird thing is about the tale, it was found on a Thursday. It was reported obviously to the authorities and what have you, and then one of the jury members on the following Wednesday, the Wednesday the 8th, he complained, saying, well, why wouldn't the inquest taking place sooner than what it was? It took like nearly a week for the inquest to take place. And it seems so, what's the word I'm looking for, relaxed, if you will. I mean, a poor chap's been killed, nobody knows what he was doing on the railway line in the early hours or late hours, early hours of that morning. You know, a tragic accident had occurred, and he was found, like I said, brutally cut up into pieces, and nobody seemed really too concerned about it all. But apparently it was because by the time the jury member and all the other people had to be collected, it was near weekend, not collected, I mean sworn in, but because it was near the weekend, it was said that they wouldn't have had time to arrange it all. But also, more interestingly, they even turned around at the actual inquest itself, and it was said at the time that, well, even if we'd had an inquest either on the Thursday or the Friday, he wouldn't have been buried anyway until the following week, so it didn't really matter. But that is the blasé and casual way that they treated this and similar incidents of its kind. But yeah, this is the location, like I said, through the gates where William's body was found, and just where Vicky's standing over here is Cam's Bridge, and we'll take you guys down to it so we can have a look for ourselves, and because the bridge is still there to this day. So in front of us, this is Cam's Bridge. This is where obviously William walked across back in the day. He was making his way from, I think it was from this direction towards Helmshore and Ramsbottom, as they used to say back in the day. So Cam's Bridge is in front of us, and where we've just been, just in this direction and through those wooden fences, that is where his body was found. But we'll take a walk through Cam's Bridge towards the Tenter's Fields. And the reason why this was called, or is called, Cam's Bridge is because there used to be a big mill on the opposite side known as Cam's Mill, and it was massive. It was unique in size, absolutely gigantic, and it just was through this direction, and we'll take you there shortly. But yeah, I mean, this is Cam's Bridge, still standing after all these years. We'll just go through. So Cam's Mill would have just been either side of these two fields, which were Tenter's Fields back in the day, and we're not going to get into what Tenter's Field is again. That is in another video which I covered. I'll put the link down below. But just through the fields, if you will, Cam's Mill used to be in that direction. But yeah, Cam's Bridge. So like I said, William made his way across all the way to the opposite side, and that is when he was struck by one of the engines. It could have been late on the Wednesday night or during the early hours of the Thursday morning. Nobody knows the exact truth, but yeah, it's a sad tale, and especially more so when it seems that obviously the people in charge of the inquest took it all so casual, you know, and it took like a week for the inquest to actually take place in Helmshore. So it was PC Turner who was one of the first on the case, if you will, as soon as the body of William was reported, and he arrived here at the scene at around 4:20 in the morning. And what he found, it must have been horrific. I mean, poor William, you know, he'd lost an arm, his head had been chopped off, lost part of his leg, lost a foot. It must have been a real mess. But like I said, it's not a story that is unique on this stretch of railway line. There's been many others, and plenty others took place further on in Haslingden in that direction. So there's not much information on what happened or where William's body was interred. I'm presuming it was at St James's in Haslingden. It's something we're going to look into, and if we do find out he was buried there and we can find his grave, we'll incorporate it into this video. But like I said, information on stories like this is I'm going to make our way this way, it's nearly slipped, it's very sparse. The newspapers didn't seem to really report too much on these kind of stories. You know, it's just more a case of, oh, a body's been found, his name was so and so, the inquest took place on this date, that's it, end of. And it's a shame really, because these people were real living people. They had families, they had loved ones that they left behind, and obviously this guy's been killed, he's been hit by a train, and we don't know if there was compensation given. We just don't know anything else about the tale, and it is a shame. But this is why we're going to do these short stories, so these people will never be forgotten, if you will. You know, if we can give them some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, if we can just remember them in some small ways, this is what we'll do with these short videos. So all we know about William, and I think we touched upon it at the beginning, is it was a 37-year-old cardroom hand working in the mills. But again, which mill, we don't know. We don't think he was married, because he lived with his aunt and uncle, and there's no information about his personal life other than that. Like I said, by all accounts, he kept himself to himself. He was never drunk. Like they drink, don't get me wrong, like many people do, but he was never a known drunk. And it's just one of those tragedies that took place. And this is why we'll keep covering these stories. Like I say, we'll bring people back from the dead, and we'll give them one last outing, if you will, and remember them best way we can. Now, I'm sure many of you who watch these videos that me and Vicky put together, you'll have heard us talk many a time about the Helmshore rail crash of 1860 and a memorial that we're trying to raise funds for. Well, we've also now finished writing the actual novel, or the book of the story, and it's here in my hands. It's available now on Amazon to buy, and it's only £4.50, but it's got all the information about what took place back on the 4th of September 1860 here in Helmshore, and further back in that direction on the old line. But if you're interested, I'll leave links down below, and all money raised from the selling of this book will carry on going to the memorial plaque that we're trying to raise funds for. Now, we have been in touch with a couple more companies since who produce these kind of plaques, and we have managed to find some, thankfully, which are slightly cheaper. So we don't really have to get up to £1,000 target, but if we could get up to at least 500, that'd be amazing. So yeah, so again, I'll put links down to the actual the GoFundMe page, and like I said, if people are interested in purchasing this book from Amazon, it would mean so much to us both. We did put quite a lot of work into this. It may not be too thick, just over 100 pages, but all the information about what transpired back in 1860 and the lives of 11 people that were sadly lost, as well as over 100 more people who were badly injured. It's all in this book. So please consider purchasing the book, and if you don't really read books and you don't want to purchase it, you can help us by donating to, like I said, the Memorial Fund. All links are down below. So if you did find this one, even though it's short but interesting, please don't forget to give us a comment down below. Don't forget to like the video. Always subscribe to the channel, because like I said, there's more stories coming soon. Some are going to be a bit more graphic in nature, and we do have a story coming up. We're going to visit the place hopefully tomorrow, all being well, if the weather stays as it is, to cover another story, and it's a strange one. Again, not much information on it. It's going to be another short story, but about a young boy who was found drowned in one of the local reservoirs, just what, 5-10 minutes away from where we live. But there's a lot of questions I need to ask on that video. It's not all that it seems to me. Anyway, but in the meantime, guys, I'm waffling on. As I always say at the end of these videos, don't forget to take care, look after yourselves, and we will be back soon with another short tale from our glorious, if not dark, past.